Hello and welcome to the Exit Velo podcast. I am your host for the evening, Henry Winkelhake, joined here with Ben Rossi. And we've got a milestone episode of Exit Velo on tap for you tonight, episode 50. It is hard to believe that we have already got 50 of these recorded, and it really hasn't been all that long. I think it was right around the World Series last year is when we first picked up the show. So good on us. Wow, that doesn't seem like enough days to get 50 episodes in, but we did it. So, Ben, we have some special thanks to go around. We definitely want to thank Adam Cohen, sorry, I don't know why I pronounced that so weird, but I am thankful for you, Adam, usually our host, our partner in crime, our baseball encyclopedia, our resident Yankees fan. Adam, we couldn't do this without you. I do want to make sure we thank Ryan Morick as well. Ryan was instrumental in getting the show started in the first place. Randy Zelia as our Back Sports page leader. So thank you, Randy, for making this a possibility, for making everything on BSP a possibility. Thank you to Thomas Darrow for editing our episodes early on and helping us get everything posted. He was also instrumental getting us off the ground. Thank you to all the guests we've had along the way, especially Zach Diamond. I know you've been on for quite a few episodes with us. Ben, am I missing anybody?
I don't think so. I just want to. I mean, you gotta appreciate yourself, and I know us too. I gotta give a big shout out to you. I mean, thank you, Henry, for just being there, being such a confident host, always being on the show, and you've just kept it moving forward, welcoming me on. I mean, I know I've been a recent addition to the show, but no, it's been absolute pleasure in the time I've done it, and I'm just so glad the show's been able to thrive and make it 50 episodes, and here's to 50 more.
Oh yeah, here's to the next 50. We'll have to do something special for episode 100, and I appreciate you thanking me, Ben. And back at you, buddy. I want to thank you too for, again, just like you said, always being willing to be on the show, always having something great to add to the conversation, and for giving us a little bit of West Coast flavor, which we are going to get to in a second. I will preface just by saying I'm sorry. But before we get into that, before we get going into the show, we had a couple series that were not concluded in the wild card round last time we spoke, last Thursday. Since then, the Dodgers hadn't quite finished off the Brewers. They did go on to sweep that series. Don't think anybody was really surprised about that. The Cubs got swept by the Marlins, my Cubs, and I think people were maybe a little more surprised by that. I know I was surprised. But I mean, great for the Marlins. Feel-good team for sure. And then the other wild card matchup that concluded since our last show, the Padres with a come-from-behind win. They were behind 1-0 in the series to the Cardinals, took Game 2 and Game 3, and I believe they were down 4-0 in Game 3 before coming back, Ben.
I believe you're right. Yeah, was it Game 2 they were down? It was one of those games, but no, I mean the bats just completely started breaking through for the Padres, and I mean I was just impressed with what they brought there. I mean, in some ways, as much as the Cardinals, I've told you before how it's been a team I've always respected. I know once a year this may, but at the same time, though, I mean, like we were saying, they didn't play a full season exactly. So I think in some ways, the Cardinals not making it brings out any of the questions about legitimacy of a title this year. Now, every team left it's going to be legitimate, whoever wins it.
That's a great point, Ben, that we won't have to argue, the Cardinals only played 58 games and they maybe had an advantage because of the COVID situation where they weren't acting responsibly. So great point that you make there, that no real asterisk. And I think maybe some of the lower seeding teams being eliminated might help with that too. Maybe the teams where you would have argued they shouldn't have been there anyways. We'll get into the Marlins. They were one of those teams. But the Brewers, we mentioned, that probably would have been a champion that would have raised some eyebrows. But let's go ahead and start breaking down the ALDS. We'll start there, and then we'll move out for the NLDS. So probably the most relevant news right now, the A's and Astros series wrapped up earlier this afternoon. And unfortunately, I think for most of America, most baseball fans, the Astros won that series 3-1. I know definitely, unfortunately for you, Ben, being an athletics fan. So Do you have the heart to break down Game 4?
I mean, just completely frustrating. And it was, well, first off, beginning of the game, it's like deja vu. A's get out to a 3-0 lead, which we did in Game 2 as well, which we had lost, which we had done yesterday in the game that we thought we were going to lose. We've in all 4 of the games in the series, A's have gotten out to an early lead in the first or second inning, but today, unlike the other days, I just was not feeling comfortable. I knew, okay, 3-0 lead, this is not something to feel comfortable about, even despite the fact that Frankie Montas, our starter, was looking electric, throwing even to hit 100 in his first few innings. All of a sudden, though, it just fell apart in the 4th. I knew at some point it couldn't stay. It just didn't look like it would stay consistent like this forever against these Astros bats. And I mean, just seeing that the Astros be able to constantly come back and seeing the ball fly like never before at Dodger Stadium. No team, I mean, even the Astros, no team was really ever safe in this series. There were no like relaxing moments where a team could just sit back and feel stable. Even at the end, when the Astros were up for like 11-4, the A's still battled a little bit and had some nerves caused and brought some nerves out in the Astros. So, I mean, the series that was just stressful from the get-go for both teams. We just completely came out on the wrong end, as it seems like we almost always do in the postseason. So it's just really, there's no sugarcoating how disappointing it is for the Athletics Nation, how like frustrating it is that we just can't seem to get over certain playoff woes, even though we did get past the first round this year.
And I'm sure certainly frustrating to lose out to the division rival Astros too, especially after being better than them all season and, so definitively winning that division and running away with it, to where it really looked like the A's year, at least out west, and the Astros were not all that great in the regular season. And then they show up in the postseason, all of a sudden flip a switch and make quick work of the Twins. And then, fairly quick work of the Athletics too. And like you said too, kind of crazy offensive environment. Seeing that many runs scored in Dodger Stadium is definitely rare, like you said, and kind of just rare for the postseason in general, where we're used to seeing these pitchers duels, but definitely very high scoring games in this Astros and Athletics series. But Ben, if you had to pick one series defining moment, what was that for you?
Well, what I initially thought was going to be the series defining moment, I'll tell you, was yesterday when the A's managed to come back. It was looking like, for a lot of us A's fans, we were very optimistic that Chad Pinder's 3-run homer in the 7th to keep the series alive, that miraculous home run, if the A's had been able to do something today, that could have been the series defining moment. But because of our failure to do that, it had to be one of the Astros moments from this game. I would have to go with definitely Carlos Correa and Brantley's homers. Brantley's first homer, 2-run homer in the 4th, that broke the game up for the Astros and finally got their hitting spree going. They were still down 3-2 then, but that's when A's fans were like, "Oh no, this is it. The Astros are coming back now. This is trouble." And then, sure enough, the Astros took the lead 5-3 that inning and had that ridiculous 5-run 4th inning, and then the 3-0 lead. Also in that inning, Carlos Correa's 3-run homer. That's kind of the obvious defining moment because that's what put the Astros up front for the rest of the game. But then I would say that there was a third homer that I would argue is even more defining, was the one. So actually, after the Astros took that 5-3 lead, the A's responded with another Ramon Laureano home run. Then they were down 5-4. So it was like, okay, A's got to run back. But then immediately the Astros responded the next inning on a Michael Brantley leadoff home run that then took that run away from the A's. So just the Astros' ability to get that run back and not look back on the second Brantley home run, I think, was what pretty much put the series away.
And I think that is a really intelligent pick for a series-defining moment because, on paper, you look through at the game recap. It's a solo home run that they were already winning and it put them up by one more. But like you said, Ben, momentum definitely shifting in that moment with that Brantley home run. And I think that was a huge insurance run for the Astros, and then kind of just wearing down the A's. You can only come back so many times, and they did a great job of fighting the entire series. And like you said, in the ninth inning, not even down 6 runs, whatever today, 6, 7 runs, never saying die, never quitting. That's something that I wish my team had a little bit more in them. But yeah, pretty dominant series for the Astros overall. And how scary is it that those bats could be coming alive?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's really scary for the baseball world and everything. And I mean, the fact that as much as we want to accuse them of banging this time, I mean, it's kind of impossible to, because we would have heard the trash cans this time with no fans in the crowd, even when the Astros are the home team. Like today, oh, that would have been funny if they did include that in like their B-roll sound, the fans that they've been using, because Astros were the home team in this one. But no, but yeah, as much as we can't accuse them of that, and seeing the Astros bats come alive that were absent season, because I knew that. I mean, I feel like a lot of the baseball world, seeing the stats, kind of doubted the Astros, but I knew the Astros had it in them if they were able to get their bats going. But what I think was even scarier in this series, seeing how dominant this young, inexperienced Astros bullpen was. Like, it's crazy. We didn't score a single run off their bullpen the first 2 games in the 7 or 8 innings they faced, that their bullpen faced us combined. Their bullpen has all rookies with the exception of Ryan Presley. Like how were the Astros bullpen just able to jump out like that? And then in game 3 when they blew it for the A's, I was like, oh, maybe this bullpen thing, maybe the A's are finally figuring out this bullpen. I think the A's finally got it, and it seems like a momentum turn. But then all of a sudden, I mean, their bullpen was able to again shut down the A's. So I think the unexpectedness of this young bullpen coming through, and then when the A's were the ones who clearly had the bullpen edge going into the series, is looking even scarier for them.
Yeah, that's a great point there too, Ben. And I think it was George Springer who said the other day, it struck me as a weird quote. It was something like, we may not have a bunch of big names or something, which I thought was weird because their offense is full of big names. But to your point, the bullpen and kind of the back end of the rotation as well is definitely some unexpected heroes stepping up and delivering in a big way in the moment. Christian Javier, he's got 2 starts for him in the postseason, only 4 innings, so I guess being in more of an opener role, but he hasn't given up a run. Enoli Paredes, they have to give up a run. Blake Taylor, guys who I haven't really heard of, delivering in that Astros bullpen in a big way. And it very much leads me to believe that the Astros are back and that they're going to be dangerous moving forward.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've got the real future. I mean, the fact that they've done it with like a lot of their pitching, their starting pitchers being injured. They had it figured out with them. I mean, part of that could have had to do with, and the fact that I just think it's also interesting the fact that you're finally seeing Dusty Baker be right in the postseason. I mean, I guess Dusty Baker was finally right in this series, something we're not used to seeing. So to see Dusty Baker move on in the playoffs is also something interesting, as a lot of fans were counting him out. I mean, I have nothing but respect for Dusty Baker, but I gotta say the fact that he's finally been moving on in the postseason, and the fact that these Astros that he seemed to be pushing the right buttons with this bullpen is kind of something that makes me wonder, boy, what the Astros may not have lost much of their future at all, even though some people think that they're done and no longer as dominant as they were.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Dusty Baker guy myself. I don't have fond memories of him ruining Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor early on in the guys 2000s, early 2000s for the Cubs. And I never really have been too fond of kind of the old school manager. I like the fun, let the kids play style. But yeah, credit to Dusty for moving on in the playoffs, getting it done, and maybe kind of starting to buy into some of that teaching the old dog new tricks and paying off, obviously, for the Astros. So Ben, one final question I have for you on this series. and that is a forward-looking question. Who owns the AL West going forward? Is it the Astros division yet again?
Honestly, that's what everyone's probably saying after today, and I cannot blame the baseball world for thinking that it is the Astros division after what they saw from the young guys, what they saw with the Astros bats now breaking through, and I think certainly, yeah, the Astros is no doubt the Astros are back, but I would not totally say the Astros are clear winners of the division. I mean, part of it is, and then people will argue, oh, it was because they also had disadvantage the 60-game season. That's true, but I'll tell you what, if the A's bullpen can keep giving the team innings like they did all of this season, and if the A's bats could shock the Astros like they did this series, I think it's still a toss-up in the West. I mean, it's not like the A's were fully healthy 100% either this season. We had a lot of inconsistencies with our pitchers, and one of our pitchers, A.J. Puck, who is supposed to be an excitement, he still hasn't gotten his start yet in the MLB. So I think it still remains to be seen. And if the Astros or A's are the more dominant team in the West. It's like the Astros had the more dominant bullpen, which won them the series in this series. The A's had the more dominant bullpen, which won them the regular season series. So that's kind of what I've seen it coming down to. And I think it's more of a toss-up than people are going to want to think.
I think that's a fair take that, yeah, maybe people shouldn't be so quick to put all their chips back in on the Astros now. I don't think the A's are going anywhere moving forward. They're going to be competitive. They've been competitive the last 10, 15 years, right? They're consistently in that for the most part, right?
I wouldn't say 10, 15. I'd say the last 3 or 4 years, because we did have a few last place rebuilding years in between that 2012 to 2014 era where we made the playoffs, and between 2015 to about 2017 we were pretty bad in last place in rebuilding. But then by 2018 we had a new rebuilding team, and that's the team that's poised for the future now.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you reeling me in there with the fact check.
But I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, we have consistently made the playoffs in the past 10 years overall, so I can see why you might.
Yeah, still a bright future in Oakland, and nothing to hang your head about. And like you said, definitely a positive that they were able to at least advance in the postseason this year. I know you would have liked to make it another round or two farther, but I think still an overall positive season for the A's and something to build on. What I am afraid of going forward is that the Astros have figured it out again. And because, it was only last year when they were like the clear favorite super team. Everybody thought they were going to sweep the Nationals in the World Series. So I am worried that the Astros are going to come back next year and then just be like a 105 win team again. So I don't know if the A's ceiling is maybe quite as high, but that could have a lot to do with Frankie Montas and Jesus Luzardo and how those young pitchers, how their development pans out. So I know that'll be one of the more interesting divisions to watch for years to come. But we're going to move on to another interdivisional series, which, spoiler alert, they all are from this point on. It's Ben, you were just talking pre-show that it's all like East and West too, that all the Central teams were eliminated.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Baseball's just completely the coast. Like I just noticed when I was looking at all the matchups to start this series, I was like, wait a minute. You have A's Astros, that's AL West. And I see the Yankees Rays, I'm like, wait a minute. So it's AL West and AL East thing. And first off, I was looking at the AL first. I wasn't even paying attention to the NL initially, and then I go look at the NL. I'm like, wait, no one in the NL Central made it. The fact that you were saying four teams that made the playoffs, I thought at least one of them was going to make it past to the next round. Wait a minute, not a single one of the NL Central teams even made it there. Whoa! Baseball coast to coast. All 4 teams in the AL West, all four teams in the AL West and East, all 4 teams in the NL West and East. I don't ever remember seeing baseball being like this coast to coast. I usually think at least one Central team maybe even makes it to like the championship series a lot of the times. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, definitely weird to see the all coast playoffs from here on out. And even more remarkable, like you said, the 4 NL Central teams made it, but there was 3 AL Central teams as well. So we have 7 teams from those 2 Central divisions make it into the wild card, and all 7 of them are defeated. Not a one team from the middle of the country advancing on. The coasts are where the power is, I suppose. But moving on to one of those coastal series, it's been a pretty good one so far. And the Rays and Yankees. The Rays leading that series currently 2-1, but Game 4 is underway as we speak, and I believe the Yankees are still up in that game. So the Yankees came out of the gate, took Game 1 9-3. Giancarlo Stanton was hitting home runs all over the place. Apparently one that went to the moon, maybe still hasn't landed. I heard it was like an 800-foot bomb. I actually have yet to see the footage, which kind of exposing myself there, but quite a monster shot from Stanton, I've heard. But then the Rays fighting back, taking Game 2 and Game 3, and then with the chance to put away the Yankees now in Game 4. Ben, what have been some of your takeaways from that series?
I mean, obviously, like you were saying, yeah, Stan. I mean, not only that one moonshot home run, I mean, how he came through with that big grand slam in Game 1 to put the Yankees up front. Little did I know that grand slam would need to be huge, because considering how like the Yankees dropped the last 2 games, if it wasn't for them going ahead in Game 1, who knows where the series would be now. But what's impressed me especially is seeing, I know going into the series, I mean, we all knew the Rays were good, but with what the Rays did and how they were good was kind of underrated. I mean, everyone said, oh, it's the pitching that's carried the Rays and everything, and oh, the pitching is like thing that to watch for. But I mean, seeing a lot of these guys hit big for the Rays all of a sudden, like, I mean, I would have to say, like, when we talk about the series defining moment, Kevin Kiermaier's three-run homer, and I believe that was last game, or yeah, that was Game 3 to give the Yankees that commanding. I mean, not give the Yankees, give the Rays that commanding 2-1 series lead. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people were quite seeing that, and then the fact that you've had all these other relative unknowns in the Rays order breaking out, like one of the guys that I really think is interesting is that one left fielder. I haven't really heard of him, Randy Arozarena.
I think it's Arozarena.
I mean, he's been something special to watch in the series, and how he had like 3 hits the other day. What have you thought about him?
Yeah, he came over. It was in that trade with St. Louis, who I can't quite remember. For some reason, I feel like Tommy Pham was involved in that too, but Pham didn't end up with the Cardinals. So I think I'm getting my wires crossed, but the Cardinals were involved somewhere. But yeah, that young man is hitting 600 in the postseason, which that's through 20 at-bats now. So that's pretty remarkable. 12 hits and 20 at-bats for Randy Arozarena, including 3 home runs, 4 RBI. So he's definitely been the MVP of the Rays thus far. But I like what you said, too, that their offense stepping up and getting contributions from guys you may not expect. And, well, I guess that's kind of the whole thing about the Rays lineup, that you wouldn't expect that kind of run-scoring potential from kind of the not big names at all. You look through that lineup, and, I mean, Austin Meadows is like a big-ish name. He returning from injury. He hadn't had very many at-bats. Only has 9 at-bats in the postseason and hasn't done very much with them, batting 111. But yeah, it's been the unexpected heroes for the Rays. Your Randy Arozarenas, your Joey Wendles, your Michael Perez's, Manuel Margot's, just like names that you would not believe are postseason heroes. But I mean, that's Rays baseball for you. And I think the pitching has been decent. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Ben?
Mike Zunino's another one.
There we go. And G-Man Choi having another pretty good postseason as well. But yeah, I think the pitching has been decent for the Rays to not allow the Yankees to just hit all the bombs like they did in Game 1. So definitely a good job of refocusing. I know Charlie Morton was pretty good last night, getting the win in Game 3. But I kind of want to see the Rays hold on and win this thing, man. I think they're a feel-good team, and a team that hasn't had the like historic postseason success that the Yankees obviously had with 27 World Series. So I'd like to see a win for the little guys. I know Adam Cohen wouldn't agree with us if he was on tonight. That's actually why Adam isn't on tonight. He's watching his beloved Yankees, and they are winning 2-1 as we speak in the bottom of the fourth. So the Yankees looking to force Game 5 there, which could be our only Game 5. None of these series seem to be really going the distance, Ben.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, it's kind of hard to see. I mean, the only other series with like the real with the possibility of going Game 5 besides this at this point is the Padres-Dodgers series. But I mean, I don't know. The Padres have dug themselves in a pretty big hole now, and like even yesterday's game, even though it looks close by the score, it was just a little Padres rally because of a little hiccup by Kenley Jansen of why they got back into the game. So even that series, I mean, I could be wrong. Who knows what could happen? Because the Padres, I'm never going to say die with this team, especially given what their comeback they made against the Cardinals, and given how not many people maybe thought they'd be this good this season. So I'm not going to count the Padres out, but I don't even know if I necessarily see that series going to Game 5. So, yeah, I agree with you there, Henry. I think if there is going to be a competitive series, it's going to be this Yankees-Rays series.
And I think that was expected coming in, too. We thought this one would be a tough-fought series. It was tough-fought all season in the regular season, and coming into the year, everybody thought the Yankees would run away not only with the division, but just with all of baseball and be another super team, kind of the equivalent to the Dodgers in the NL. But that really hasn't been the case. I know it's tough to say with a small sample size of only being a 60-game regular season. And then what do you know, all the injuries that happened to the Yankees derailing their season. Well, I shouldn't say derailing. They're in the NLDS and fighting to force a Game 5. But you know what I mean, that the injury bug comes around in New York and it just keeps coming and coming and coming. But they're healthy now and looking pretty strong in the playoffs, trying to force a Game 5. Ben, do you think they ultimately do that? And who do you think wins the series?
You know what? I'm going to have to say I think the Yankees definitely are capable of doing it, but like if they are to force a Game 5, they'll have to have like a real, like they'll have to have someone like a Garrett Cole out on the mound, because that's been the problem this series is they've just given up too many runs, especially from their starters. Like you saw Happ yesterday gave up a lot, and I mean in terms of. And then, I mean, tonight, well, I guess Jordan Montgomery's been pitching well. I mean, he's only going to be available tonight. So it's kind of, I think it's more of a matter of who they send to the mound in Game 5. But with the way the Rays have been breaking out offensively, like we've talked about, it hasn't even been their full lineup breaking out because they've even had with their bullpen proving again and again they can consistently hold down games, and I think Blake Snell has the ability to come back because I know he didn't have a great start in Game 1, but I think I could see him bouncing back. I'm going to have to give the series a slight edge to the Rays.
Okay, yeah, I would buy that, especially having the 2-1 advantage right now. But yeah, like we said, the Yankees up in Game 4, trying to force that Game 5, but. Man, I kind of want to see it now. That would be an awesome Game 5 to see Garrett Cole go up against Blake Snell and this hard-fought division fight that's been going on all year. And, you see some bad blood at the end of the year, guys throwing at each other. So I think that would be an awesome game to watch and an awesome environment. So I'm rooting for Game 5. But I would agree with you, Ben, that if I had to predict a winner of the series right now, I mean, I'm going Rays, given that they're up 2-1 and still have a chance to come back and win tonight. Ron Yarbrough on the mound right now, trying to shut things down. That would be an awesome pitching series. So I'm fingers crossed for that.
I did realize, though, do you think Garrett Cole will be a pitcher for Game 5?
That's what I had thought. Garrett Cole got the start in Game 1?
Yeah. So yeah, I guess he'd be ready for Game 5 because then if it's because that's the one thing I was thinking. I mean, I feel like he'd be the real person to give that Yankees that chance in Game 5. So now I'm feeling a little less confident about the Rays if it is Garrett Cole who's going to be sent to the mound in Game 5.
He's been perhaps the best pitcher in baseball down the stretch. He has been absolutely dominant, on fire, and the Yankees certainly happy they invested all that money in him. At least at the moment, they're happy that it's paying off, that they have their ace. So yeah, it would be tough to pick against Garrett Cole there. But last question on this series before we move forward, Ben. Were we wrong about the Yankees being a super team?
I don't think so. First off, like you already touched on this. They had all those. I mean, they had all those injuries. It's hard in a 60-game season when like a single guy gets injured. It could make a regular season fall apart. Just look at even the Astros and a lot of their struggles kind of had to do with that, with their big pitcher Justin Verlander going down. I think it more has to do with the Rays just being good. And yeah, the Yankees having a lot more injuries, like we were saying. Yes, the Yankees have the big names offensively. Yes, the Yankees have an offensive edge on most, if not all, the teams. But I mean, yeah, think about it. They were running into some tougher competition. I mean, we knew those starting pitcher woes were bound to happen for them. So I don't think I still don't see anything flawed about calling them a super team at this point.
And you make a good point too, bringing up the injuries again. That it is kind of hard to look at it through the lens now. Look at them without Luis Severino, without James Paxton, and I mean, coming into the season, we thought Gary Sanchez and I guess Gleyber Torres has picked it back up in the postseason, but a bit of a rough regular season for Torres. But I mean, now that they're back, they appear to be firing on all cylinders, that Yankees offense, and looking more super team-ish to me, even while being down in this series. But no one's ever going to call the Rays a super team, but they're playing awfully super, if you can pardon my corniness. But I think that's about all I have to say about the AL. So Ben, you good moving over to the NL?
Yeah, let's see. Look at this other league here. Another interesting matchups.
Well, maybe not quite so interesting. And the Marlins really going down without much of a fight to the Braves, getting swept 3-0. What's up with that?
I just think, I mean, well, first off, the Marlins, for a lot of people, I wouldn't hang my head. I would still hang my head high if I was a Marlins fan, honestly. I mean, they weren't even supposed to necessarily be here at this point, let alone I didn't think they'd get past your Cubs even. So like I was pretty impressed with how the Marlins got to this round. But then the crazy thing in this series, though, I mean, I think it's partly also not their fault. Like, it's not their fault that there was this rookie Ian Anderson comes out and he struck out 8 across 5. I didn't realize that part until I looked at how, oh my God, they had this rookie coming out and like dominating in the postseason. And then, actually Kyle Wright was the guy who first pitcher to make his major league debut in the postseason, I believe. Yeah. And like you're saying, he isn't even a rookie yet, but he threw 6 scoreless innings with 7 Ks. I mean, who could have known that? How could you control that? I mean, we live in this young, I guess we totally do live in this world of young players in baseball.
Definitely unexpected, man, to see the young pitchers, the Braves, coming out with that kind of firepower. Not to mention, they're still doing the other things that the Braves do to beat you, scoring all those runs with that electric offense that they have. So, yeah, really, really tough for the Marlins to overcome that. And I think the Cinderella story ended for Miami pretty quickly. They turned back into a pumpkin after upsetting my Cubs. But I'm not really too upset, man, because the way Atlanta is playing right now, I think they would have steamrolled us too.
Oh yeah. It's hard to know. I mean, I feel like, if there's any team that's going to give the Dodgers a run for their money or knock them or knock them out as they're still looking like team to beat, it's definitely Atlanta is the team to do that.
So did you have a series defining moment from that brief series, Ben?
I mean, I actually didn't really follow much of the series, but just hearing about it, I mean, having Travis d'Arnaud go with that go-ahead 3-run homer in the bottom of the 7th game 1. So I guess actually when I looked at the series, I didn't realize the Marlins were a little closer in game 1. So yeah, d'Arnaud's big big thing, kind of just like solidified d'Arnaud's name as like one of the real power breakouts that we've seen this season. And so I'd have to go with that, or I could argue one of those pitching moments. Do you kind of agree there that it's one of those two moments?
It's between two, I would say. Definitely d'Arnaud flipping that series on its head in game one, and that the Marlins were winning that game in the seventh inning. They were winning that game by multiple runs, in fact, and then d'Arnaud comes in, gives a 3-run bomb to erase that deficit, and then the rest is history. It was all Braves from there. But yeah, don't want to discount those historic pitching performances from the rookie and not even rookie Kyle Wright. So tough to say what the series-defining moment was there, but it's also tough to say when there isn't a whole lot of conflict in that series after game one, and the Marlins really kind of definitely were outmatched from that point on. So yeah, I think really just the magic ran out for Miami. Their young pitchers had been really good this season and in the postseason as well. Sixto Sanchez really leading that charge, but we kind of saw the wheels fall off for him a little bit in game 3 as the Braves went on to win 7-0. So, maybe just not enough firepower in that Braves lineup either to keep up with Atlanta. But are you thinking that the Braves are now the team to beat in the NL? Or are you still liking Dodgers or maybe Dodgers?
Yeah, I'm not saying they're the team to beat, but based on their postseason performance and how they've just come through and been one of the more dominating teams in this round. I mean, it's hard to say though, because the thing is, some could argue they also have a little bit of they've had a little bit of some easier matchups in this postseason, you could argue. So it's hard to say if the Braves are truly the team to beat, but with their offense exploding at the right time, like it's been doing, with all their bats in the order, with all these unexpected pitchers coming through, they might be like one of the hottest teams at the right time. I still will not put them down quite yet as the team to beat in the NL. Would you?
I wouldn't quite do that, and I'm glad you made the point too that they have had an easier road to the NLCS than the Dodgers. The Dodgers got the Brewers in the first round, but now they play a really tough matchup in the Padres, which so far they've made pretty easy work of that matchup, which would also lead me to believe that the Dodgers may still be the team to beat in the NL. But either way, if it's Dodgers Braves or if it's Dodgers Padres, I think we're in for a treat in that NLCS series. But I think that's about all the questions I have. I would ask the whose division is it going forward question, but I don't think anybody's really going to make a case for Miami there. It's still the Braves division going forward, I would presume, Ben.
Yeah, well, it's not just necessarily not the Marlins division going forward, but there's other teams whose division it could be going forward, like the Mets. Might be able to. I know this is an unpopular prediction among many, but who knows? The Mets, you never know what's going to really happen with their team and how they've had several breakout players. Maybe the Nationals just had a sudden down year and all of a sudden are gonna rise up again and make another run. So it's that division's very open. So I think it might only get harder for the Marlins to compete in there. It might get harder for the Braves to defend it in some ways.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there that definitely some other teams that we would want to consider in that equation. And I do agree with you too. I think the Mets have a bright future. I would probably still say Atlanta, probably the best outlook of any team in that division moving forward, but not a slam dunk that, they have the AL East locked up for the next decade or anything like that. But moving out west, we have Dodgers Padres in a highly anticipated series. This may have been what I would have picked to be the best series coming in. I might have gone Yankees Rays instead, but it's been a little underwhelming so far. I don't think the Padres have really showed up, man.
Well, in game 1, it was kind of tied late, but since the Dodgers kind of pulled ahead and like you had that, and like in a couple of the breakout plays there, I'm gonna agree with you there that the Padres haven't made it maybe as close as we thought they would, and at the same time, I think the Dodgers are still like ultimately have been the team to beat in the AL. So it's and obviously the Padres don't have maybe as much of that experience, but like I was expecting a little. I'll agree with you there. I was expecting maybe slightly better performances from the Padres, or at least making some stuff more exciting, which they have. But I think the Dodgers have responded fine. I think what's been more underwhelming, though, is the fact that not all the Dodgers have been hitting necessarily the way that we thought they would in this series.
That's true. They haven't been lighting the world on fire necessarily at the plate, but still scoring 5 runs in game 1 and 6 in game 2. And game 3 to be determined tonight at 9:08 Eastern time, actually getting ready to start here fairly shortly. But yeah, I think maybe the Padres were a little early in getting to the postseason, and I think the experience or lack thereof is definitely showing in this series, where on the other side of the diamond, you got the Dodgers, who have been in the playoffs like pretty much every year for the last 10, 15 years. I feel more confident in that prediction. I mean, the Dodgers, I feel like they win their NLDS series like every year now. They've been a fixture in the NLCS and certainly look like they're well on their way to punching their ticket back there. Walker Buehler has been great for them again, as he seems to always be in the postseason. He was dominant in game 1. I'd liked Clayton Kershaw not totally getting slapped around in game 2. I mean, not a great stat line. It was 6 innings, 3 earned runs for Kershaw, but by his postseason standards, pretty good. So I know we talked a little pre-show that we would love to see Clayton Kershaw. We want to see Clayton Kershaw thrive in the playoffs. So please, please keep it up, Clayton. But Ben, have you had a series-defining moment that stuck out to you in the Padres-Dodgers series so far?
I mean, I think definitely Cody Bellinger's game-robbing catch in game 2 would like home run. It was his home run robbing catch of Tatis. Like, I mean, I think what's given the Dodgers edge so much is, like I was saying, their bats have been a little quiet, but they've just made some great game-defining plays when it's mattered most. Great fundamental plays. And yeah, Cody Bellinger's jumping catch, like, now people can actually recognize how he has more than just his like amazing hitting value is something. But then I mean, I think the other big moment would be last night's game. I mean, Kenley Jansen, the Padres looked like they were climbing back. Kenley Jansen looked like he was blowing it again, which is definitely the Dodgers' biggest weakness is their bullpen. But then Joe Kelly managing to get the save with the bases loaded and just the 1-run lead was huge for the Dodgers to be able to save it. Who knows? Maybe I guess he could be the new closer for this postseason. So I think those 2 plays, if the Dodgers are going to go on to win the series, they will be the series-defining plays.
Yeah, that would be kind of wild to see Jansen lose his job. But, I mean, you got to go with the hot hand in the postseason. You can't afford to stick with your guy and have him blow a game or potentially the series. But definitely huge for Joe Kelly to come in and get that save. I believe he actually may have walked the bases loaded prior to getting Eric Hosmer to ground out to end the game. So, yeah, that's a 1-run lead, bases loaded, getting the save. That really changed the series because the Padres take game 2. It's a completely different outlook with the series tied 1-1. Instead, we have the Dodgers up 2-0 with Dustin May on the mound tonight, looking to put away Adrian Moron. Is that how you pronounce that? Moron?
Yeah, actually. Morehan.
Morehan. There we go.
I don't actually really know.
That's a more fun way to say it. Morehan. But yeah, I mean, I would say certainly the edge to Dustin May and the Dodgers there. But I mean, I would like to see the Padres extend the series. I don't think I've showed it in the shot yet. I'm actually living vicariously through the Padres these days now that my Cubbies are eliminated. Not exclusively, actually. I have like 3 or 4 teams that I would be happy to see win. Your A's would have been one of them, man. So I have less horses in the field now, but definitely would be it would be nice to see another game go or another series go deeper and maybe try and get to 4 or 5 games. But I mean, it's been all Dodgers so far. And Ben, do you think they can finish off the sweep tonight?
I think, I mean, this is their chance to, and ultimately they will. I mean, I just honestly think Dustin May personally has been one of the most fun pitchers to watch, or one of the most nasty pitchers to watch too. I mean, the way his fastball cuts and how it's in the upper 90s. I mean, that just seems so unhittable to me. So I just really think tonight's the night the Dodgers are going to clinch the series. And even if they don't, I still have some confidence if they can come back the next day, or like eventually if game 5 need be, because if Walker Buehler can come back, if he pitches like he did earlier in the series, like they're good to go. But yeah, I could definitely see the Dodgers finishing off the Padres, because we haven't even seen like the biggest offensive explosion yet. They've been manufacturing runs in such small ways, I was seeing. So
that's a good point.
I think we're yet to maybe see the best of the Dodgers.
And that's kind of a scary thought, considering that, they're beating a very good San Diego Padres team 2-0 as it is. So Atlanta Braves, you might have to watch out in that NLCS if we do see the best of the Dodgers there. But I would tend to agree with you, Ben. I think they probably do take care of business and finish off the series tonight. And I do just want to make a quick note, too. I meant to mention this earlier in the show, but as we're talking about the pitcher matchups and Walker Buehler being able to retake the mound for a potential Game 5, it's been interesting to see no off days in between any of these series, to where you aren't necessarily able to pitch your ace 2 times for sure in a series. That it's been weird to see much more strategy as far as bullpen and saving your arms goes.
I'd have to agree with you there. And just with no off days, I think it's in some ways worse for the players to have no off days in a lot of ways, because they have less time to recuperate, or like if they give up something, they need time to like get over it. Usually they have like at least one day off in the series to get over it, because there's going to be the travel days. But now it's just like each day they have to come back like it's a new day every day. But I think it's better though for the fans, because as a fan, we tend to be the ones like waiting, being all stressed out about games and what's going to happen, especially when we're waiting for a crucial Game 5 and we have to wait for that one day of travel back to the home team stadium for the crucial Game 5. Not in these series at all, because it's just consecutive days. It's like, okay, I have the next game to look forward to the next day. I kind of like it that way. It gets kind of fans over their nerves faster. So yeah, I think it's really interesting how it maybe benefits fans more than players.
Definitely great for the fans to not have to wait out those travel days. Because yeah, I've been there back when my team still made deep postseason runs. That anxiety, man, on those travel days, just wanting to have a game that day and waiting for seemingly no reason. But yeah, I kind of like the format going forward. And I heard somebody make the point too that it kind of makes the game more reflective of the regular season, and that you're playing games every day and you actually have to use your entire roster. You can't just have 3 aces and get by on them. I think it may be a more pure game in that standpoint, and that postseason baseball isn't its own, beast as it compared to the regular season.
Yeah, for sure. I would say then, yeah, that could definitely make up for like the fact that they had the shorter regular season and all that, just restore the integrity of the game with players being able to go out and play all the time like that.
All right, Ben, last question I have for you on Dodgers Padres. This one, I think we do want to ask the whose division is it going forward question.
I think that's going to be this is going to be the hardest one prediction to make. I'm not going to lie. Padres have the slight edge with a younger future. Not that the Dodgers don't have a young future, because the Dodgers have some potential young transplants too, but like the Padres have the ultimate team of the future that any team could ask for. But the thing is with that West division, I mean, it's not just the Dodgers or the Padres. Like I was saying with the NL East. I mean, I still have faith in what the Rockies can do with their bats. They can always frustrate teams the way they do. And then even you saw the Giants this season. It was pretty off to my half. It was pretty impressive what the team across the Bay did, nearly making the playoffs, and seeing some of their young players like Yastrzemski and Donovan Solano come through. That was kind of scary. So I think it's, in a lot of ways, while it is either of the team's divisions to, I think it's either of the team's divisions to lose, but maybe in the next couple of years, I might still have to give it to the Dodgers. A lot of that, though, could also depend on how far they go in the postseason and when they decide to, when they get to the point where they dismantle.
Yeah, and can they get over the hump? And maybe that factors into that equation as well, because it's been NLCS losses or World Series losses for the Dodgers, and like pretty much the last 4 years. They've gotten to the NLCS but haven't been able to cap it off, losing to the Astros in the World Series, losing to the Red Sox in the World Series, losing to the Nationals in the NLCS last year. Another Clayton Kershaw blow up. You hate to see it. Hope we don't see that again. But you make an interesting point that the Padres are certainly set up for the future, have all that youth and excitement on their roster. So I think San Diego is still very much trending up. And we saw this year they're maybe not that far behind the Dodgers as it is right now. So that's going to be interesting for sure going forward. And I'm not sure how much room for growth the Dodgers really have, given how good they already are. But, I mean, they do still have some youth on their roster, too. Like you pointed out, you have Dustin May, Jesus Luzardo. Gosh, man, I'm drawing a blank. Julio Urias, what I meant to say.
Gavin Lux.
I'm sorry. Gavin Lux. Yeah, there we go. There's youth on that roster. Cody Bellinger's not that old himself. So, I'm not, predicting that the Dodgers are falling off a cliff anytime soon. I think they're here to stay for the next 5 years for sure, at least. I mean, I got Mookie Betts signed for 13 years, so I think the Dodgers will be good going forward, but I haven't really given an answer. I would probably still lean Dodgers over Padres, but I may have a different answer for you at the end of next season. But, Ben, I think that is about all we have to discuss tonight, so thank you very much for joining me, and thank you, viewers, for joining us for episode 50 of Exit Velo. And like you said early on, Ben, here's to 50 more. We appreciate you all sticking with us through the highs and lows, and we look forward to you sticking with us for more of them. So this has been the Exit Velo podcast presented by Back Sports Page. You all have a good night and watch some baseball. Oh, I can't get the out. And don't forget